Hi guys, I thought it would be fun to make a video naming the Beatles family members. I find anything about the Beatles interesting, including their families. The only family members I'm a little unsure of are the grandparents. I got the names of them online from a website. I'm not completely sure how accurate it is, so I hope the grandparents' names are correct. But I'm going to start with John Lennon's family. John Lennon's grandparents on his father's side were John Lennon and Mary Maguire. His grandparents on his mother's side were George Ernest Stanley and Annie Jane Millward. Lennon's dad was Alfred Lennon and his mum was Julia Stanley. John Lennon was brought up by his Aunt Mimi, who was his mother's sister, and his uncle George Smith. John had 3 half-sisters and 2 half-brothers. The 3 half-sisters from his mother's side were Victoria Elizabeth, and her dad was Taffy Williams, a Welsh soldier Julia met in 1942, and she was put up for adoption and her adopted name was Ingrid Pedersen. John's other half-sisters were Julia and Jackie, and their father was John Bobby Deakins. His 2 half-brothers are from his father's side, and they are David Henry Lennon and Robin Francis Lennon. And their mother was Pauline Jones, and she was hired to look after Julian Lennon and fan mail after Alfred asked if John could give her a job. John's ex-wife was Cynthia, and together they had a son called Julian Lennon. His second wife was Yoko Ono, and they had a son they called Sean Ono Lennon. Yoko also has a daughter from a previous relationship. Now going on to Paul McCartney's family. Paul McCartney's grandparents on his father's side were Joseph McCartney and Florence Clegg, and his grandparents on his mother's side were Owen Moen and Mary Teresa Dana. His dad was James McCartney and his mum Mary Patricia Moen. Paul has one brother called Peter Michael McCartney, who goes by the name Mike. He also has an adopted sister called Ruth McCartney, and her mother was Angela Williams, James McCartney's second wife. Paul married Linda Eastman and adopted her daughter Heather. Together they also had daughters Mary and Stella and son James. Paul's second marriage was to Heather Mills, and they had a daughter Beatrice. And Paul's wife now is Nancy Chevelle, and she also has a son from a previous relationship. Now going on to George Harrison's family. George's grandparents on his dad's side were Henry Harrison and Jane Thompson. His grandparents on his mum's side were John French and Louise Ellen Wallen. His dad was Harold Harrison and his mum was Louise French. George had one sister, Louise, and 2 brothers, Harold and Peter. Paul's first wife was Patty Boyd, and his second wife was Olivia Arias, and they had one son, Danny Harrison. And now Ringo's family. Ringo Starr's grandparents on his dad's side were John Alfred Parkin Stanley and Annie Bauer. His grandparents on his mum's side were John Gleave and Catherine Martha Johnson. His dad was Richard Starkey and his mum Elsie Gleave. His first wife was Maureen Cox, and they had 2 sons, Zach and Jason, and one daughter, Lee. Ringo's wife now is Barbara Batch, and she has 2 children from a previous relationship, a daughter and a son. I hope you found this video interesting. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!